minutes probably. All right, and we are back for another episode, College Football Clarity. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. And with me, as always, my counterpart, Mr. Rocky Carigliano, the Rock Pile, here himself after a big week. Great to see you again. And wow, we really knocked it out of the park on our first episode.
Yeah, I'm happy to
Was not
be back
expecting
on.
that for our first try. Yeah,
Happy to
right.
be back
We,
talking
we
some
we we didn't
college
get
football.
canceled.
Nope, we're back.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start first. What did you think of Syracuse and the Notre Dame game?
Oh man. Well, I think I talked about it a little bit the last time, but my Syracuse
You called it.
faithful that have been on me all season about Syracuse. I said it last week, and I'm going to say this again. The one thing I've been really disappointed at with Syracuse and Fran Brown, and we have to get over this Steve Angeli, and I know they were all in on Angeli, and he was having a great year. There's no doubt about it. However, when you watch these games, the way he's handled the quarterbacks has been horrible. And then none of these guys for Syracuse really have gotten any better. There's been no player development.
None.
But I get you lose Angeli, but you didn't lose your defense. You didn't lose your
70 points. You might as well you might as well not put one out there.
So I'm more disappointed at that. What was it? 21-0 before Notre Dame's offense even touched the ball. I mean, how crazy is that?
I have not watched a lot of Syracuse all year since the UConn debacle, but after I figured I'd give him a shot, and wow, I was just they looked so bad across the board. And you mentioned player development. The quarterback that had backed up McCarthy for several years, and I think he was there last year, even when they had McCord. His name was Carlos Del Rio Wilson.
Yep.
He played for Syracuse. He was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. He was all over the place. His accuracy was bad. He couldn't hit an open receiver. I think he had the lowest rating in Syracuse history. He transfers, goes to another school, and he's tearing it up this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that again makes me think exactly what you were saying about playing quarterback and developing players, and Syracuse just not doing that. And Fran Brown, especially with quarterbacks, I mean, you've played the position, you understand the mindset. There's so much that goes into it, and pre-snap, post-snap, everything is on you. Your mind is always going. I mean, talk a little bit about playing the position just during the week, going from film study to practice to the game and the game situations, because it's like nobody really understands it unless they've played it.
Well, I think Del Rio's having a great year. He's at Marshall.
Yeah.
They're 5-6. He's thrown for just under 2,000 yards. And they have an opportunity this week. They play Georgia Southern, I believe, that if they win, they go to a bowl game, and he'll be back next year. But, the one knock on Fran Brown when he got the job was everybody said, well, he's a great recruiter. His staff that he brought in are great recruiters. And we talked a little bit about it last week, that when you get on Twitter and you get on social media, you see 4-star, recruit who's transferring from Miami to Syracuse or this one to Syracuse. There was no question in that. I had more questions around. He's never been a coordinator. He was a position coach at Georgia, so I'm not going to knock that. That means something. He's never been a coordinator, and he's never been a head coach. Last year, the schedule was a little easier for Syracuse, and they had a really good year. McCord stayed healthy. And this year, I think you see it a little bit more because I don't like the way he's managed a lot of the games from a head coach standpoint.
No.
I don't like how he's acted at the end of games. I don't like that. Something rubs me the wrong way, and I'm kind of tired because Steve, I'm one of those guys when a coach gets hired, I love watching the introductory press conference.
That
And
tells you
then
a lot.
I love watching the post-game press conferences of a lot of these coaches. And I've watched Fran Brown, all his press conferences.
Yeah.
And I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of how he's handled the media at all. But going back, you asked me the question about the quarterback piece. And I think it goes to, again, the coordinators, your quarterback coaches. It's a lot of pressure at that position. And, you
Like
know,
none
you
other.
got to have somebody in the room that's there to push you. Now, like with McCord there, you would think veteran quarterback comes in, played at Ohio State, who, by the way, he was a completion away at Ohio State, probably to stay at Ohio State another year, but he threw the interception against Michigan. But I don't know what the quarterback room looks like because nobody's developed.
Right.
You know, so
Exactly.
nobody's developed. I mean, Velarde was what, a lacrosse player.
That's what I couldn't believe. That's who they go in with.
But how do you not have somebody behind your starting quarterback that has any football experience that's even close to being game ready? Like, how do you
That's
go
what
the
blew
whole
my
year?
mind. With NIL, and they've increased their budget. How do you not have another quarterback that you're developing? How do you not have another quarterback even on scholarship that you're putting in a freshman lacrosse player and giving him reps? And this is who we're going to go with because we're so down the rabbit hole. But again, what you said about the defense, you're right. It doesn't change what they do on defense. And
No.
to give up 70 points like that to Notre Dame, and Notre Dame is a great team. I would not have expected Syracuse to give up 70 to them. I didn't think they were 70 points better than Syracuse normally. And Syracuse traditionally has played them tough. Syracuse has knocked them out of the running a couple times late in the year since they started this series. So I was really surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I picked them preseason to go 4-8. So I think I still got a shot. But I'm going to tell you this much. I was going through Boston College stuff this season. So they beat Fordham, which is their only win of the season. And they lost 10 in a row. But I went through some of the scores, and it's like they lost to Georgia Tech 36-34. They were in the game. Chance to win the game. Yep. Notre Dame, they play 25-10. Louisville, they play 38-25. So I think Boston College has gotten a lot better as the years went on, where Syracuse has went the complete opposite way. I think Boston College goes to the Dome and beats Syracuse this week. And I think Syracuse
with the way they're playing, they haven't given up on their team. They haven't given up on their coach. They're not going to come in and lay down for them. And, they're fired up and looking towards next year. They want to send their seniors out on a high note. They had a good season last year for them. And Bill O'Brien, he doesn't put up with BS. He is not going to let them come unprepared and give a poor effort. And when I watched Syracuse, I saw a combination of either lack of effort, poor coaching, especially defensively when you see two guys in one gap leaving gaping holes. When you see some of the comical mistakes that they make that are day one install for defenses, that's what scared me the most, seeing that, because that is easily correctable. You can make adjustments. You can make adjustments on the sidelines. I don't know who's upstairs and who's talking to who, but that was a major disappointment. And all year long defensively, they have regressed. So, Fran Brown, he's got to turn things around and turn things around fast, because as we have seen, you are not guaranteed tomorrow in this business.
Steve, you know this better than I do as well. And you mentioned the gap thing, the schemes on defense. Syracuse gave up 329 yards rushing in that game. Jeremiah Love had 8 carries for 171 yards, 3 touchdowns. And when you watch that game, and you mentioned the gaping holes, and you mentioned
that's what I saw.
Slow. They looked slow. They looked out of place. They looked out of alignment. And those are like basic 101 things in high school that I teach our kids is you got to be fundamentally sound. You got to know your gaps. You got to know the scheme. You got to know the coverage. They just looked lost. Now, maybe some of those guys, because they're young, some of the guys that were in there,
Yeah.
going to play at Notre Dame, maybe they were starstruck by the atmosphere, the crowd. I mean, I don't know, but 21-0 before they touched the ball on offense is crazy. They were not prepared for that game at all.
No, and I agree with you. It's 100% with Fran Brown, and he has to grow up fast because I have seen a few of his press conferences. He is very salty with the media. He does not like the media. If you ask him the wrong question, he is going to give you a very smug answer because he knows more football than you. And how dare you ask me this? Why should I have to explain myself?
I mean,
That's
I
what
think
cracks
obviously
me
he'll
up.
get the pass because he had the year last year. He'll get a pass
Mhm.
this year. And then next year, Angeli said he's going to stay. Some of the guys are going to come back. But if he has a debacle next year, now he said he's going to go get a couple quarterbacks in the portal, which he should. But if he has a debacle next year where this team's 3-9 or 4-8, I think they're going to have to show huge improvements going into next season. They got to go to a bowl game. But I feel like I've said this for 20 years. I've said it for a long time. And I think I said it last week too when we originally talked, is Syracuse has to win the 50-50 games. So in the past, Wake
Yeah.
Forest was always a winnable game. NC State's been a winnable game. Carolina's been a winnable game. Pitt has been a winnable game. Like those teams right there, they got to go win those games. They got to go beat Colgate, some of those non-conference games. And then you got to take your chances with Miami, Florida State, who I
Right.
think is going to get better. Virginia Tech is
Yes.
going to get a hell of a lot better with
Yes.
James Franklin. So I
Yes.
feel like he's going to have to go like 7-5, 8-4. But I feel like that's what Dino Babers and some of the past coaches do. They went 7-5
I think that's their
and 6-6.
ceiling. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's their ceiling in the ACC. When the ACC is firing on all cylinders, for them to win more than 7 games, especially, I think the ACC added another conference game or was one of the conferences that had added a conference game going forward recently before this season. That's going to make things more challenging. So the other elephant in the room is UConn coach Jim Mora taking off for Colorado State.
Yes.
Yeah,
so you're the UConn guy, man. What'd you think?
We saw this coming. We kind of knew last week talking to people in the administration. He spends the majority of his downtime in Utah. He's got a place in Utah. He's always out west. He loves being out west. He's a West Coast guy. I was surprised he took Colorado State because I don't think that is a great program. I don't know that he will be able to survive in the Big 12, that climate, especially with some of the money being thrown around, them being a state school. And I don't know that they'll have the donors to get the money. And he lives and dies with the transfer portal. And I give him a ton of credit for what he did at UConn with the transfers that he got and the value that he got out of them without having to spend millions of dollars was huge. And I go back to the Duke game. Duke paid their quarterback $4 million this year, $4 million last year. Mm-hmm. We didn't have anything close to our entire roster being paid $1 million. So for him to do what he did was phenomenal. He benefited from a very, very soft schedule. The good part was being able to beat Duke, being able to beat Boston College, the 2 Power 4 wins he needed. Air Force was a good win, even though they're down. And then Syracuse was right there. We would have had them as well. And I think we're the first team ever to lose 3 games in overtime. So it's just going to be challenging. He wasn't making a ton of money. He had been out of coaching for 5 years, and we really, resurrected his career by taking him on. and he delivered. He's the first coach. It's first time ever we've had back-to-back 9-win seasons, which I think is really impressive. Other than the schedule, they moved to being an independent. They got out of the AAC, and it allowed them to play teams they are more competitive against, teams that they match up better with. But I definitely think, like, when I played, we were moving up to FBS, but we were playing more of the Big East teams. We were punching above our belt. They've been kind of punching below their belt, playing UAB, playing FIU, playing FAU, Ball State. I mean, those are games. And, we were talking about it today because everyone is in hysteria about it. I said, whether he stayed or not, the problems for us are not changing. We don't average over 30,000 fans for a home game. We don't have a great broadcast deal. And for a conference, I mean, we're holding out because we want to be in a Power Four conference. We don't want to go back to the American. We're not going to go to the MAC, the Sun Belt, or the Conference USA. They don't want to go there. And we're tied into basketball for the Big East until 2030. And, whether he stayed or not, the schedule next year is a little more challenging. We have to go out to Wyoming. We're playing Air Force at Air Force. We at least have Syracuse at home. We have BC, I believe, at home. But for us to get into a Power Four conference, the money has to be there, which it's not. The television revenue has to be there, which it's not. And if he stayed, that wasn't going to change, and it was only going to become harder. And I think he realized that. He struck pay dirt this year because we had a very easy schedule. We had a seventh-year quarterback who really was unbelievable. He didn't throw his first interception until Air Force. And, it's going to be even challenging for us to get into a bowl game now, because we have to see what teams from what conference don't qualify, and if we even have enough players to do so, because once a coach is fired, you have 30 days to go into the portal. So if we have a mass exodus into the portal, now I know we have 40 seniors, but if we're playing a bowl game, if we get invited and we have 70 guys, I think that'll be difficult. They have a chance to tie the greatest season in UConn history, which was 1998, and have 10 wins.
Yep.
I think that's important to play for. And, what I was telling parents, what I was telling some of the guys was, if you want to enter the transfer portal, I don't blame you. When a new coach comes in, everything changes. You don't know who it's going to be. And you can enter it in January, the normal period. It's not going to really hurt you whether you do it now or you do it in January, because a lot of jobs still aren't filled. And there's still a lot of jobs that we don't know are going to be open. There's still guys that are on the chopping block that could get fired. So we'll see what happens. I think that he did what he wanted to do. He got what he needed out of UConn. He was being paid very low for a Division I FBS head coach. It was like $2.5 million. And I think with his incentives, he made it to $3 million. But you're not going to retain someone for any longevity when you're paying that much. So he's 64 years old. He's going to be 65. I think he saw an opportunity to go back out west where he wants to be, where he spends all his free time anyway. And he's got one more payday, and this will be his last gig. But I guarantee you, he's not lasting 5 years at Colorado State and playing a Big 12 schedule. He's not going to have UAB coming to town. He's not going to have FIU coming to town. He's not going to have Georgia State coming to town. It's a little bit different when you're playing Colorado and Texas Tech and some of those Big 12 teams. So we're very disappointed to see him go. It was pretty much expected. We had heard last week and the week before that he had interviewed out at Oregon State. And if the dominoes fell at Washington, he would have an opportunity to go there. I would not have expected him to take the Colorado State job, but to me, that shows how badly he wanted to get out of Connecticut.
Yeah, when I woke up this morning, I saw it all over social media, and first I had to make sure they weren't spam accounts because I'm like, the move didn't make any sense to me. I'm glad you said the West Coast thing. That kind of makes a little bit more sense. I was thinking that if Jed Fish left Washington for one of these other jobs, Washington would be the perfect fit for him because he wasn't going to go back to UCLA where they got rid of him.
Correct.
But when I saw that, there was two names this morning that I saw that came to my mind that I'm on social media and I saw their names get mentioned. Number one is Joe Moorhead.
Absolutely.
Joe Moorhead should get a phone call. Former Fordham quarterback. I actually think, and I
love Joe Moorhead.
Great coach, great person. I think Penn State and James Franklin, because if you remember this, Moorhead was the offensive coordinator for James Franklin for 2 years.
He was.
There's a really good chance, I think, that James Franklin will call him to be the OC because Ricky Riney, his old OC, is the head coach at Old Dominion, who I don't think is going to leave, but who knows. And then the other one, Steve, this one, I would love this one to happen, is Kevin Cahill down at Lehigh.
I've heard that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Cahill, he was at Yale as a coordinator. He's got New York State ties, played here locally at New York Mills. Has done a fantastic job at Lehigh. They're ranked 5th in the country in the
They're
playoffs.
undefeated.
They're undefeated. He's up for coach of the year. They had a really good year last year. He would be a rising star in the making. He's a young guy. So I don't know if they go that direction or if they look for a veteran coach. I saw Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's not going to.
Yeah, I wouldn't want Chip Kelly anyway.
But I think you go after one of those two guys, or I don't know. I keep hearing the current OC at UConn is going to be a candidate as well.
Yeah, Coach Gordon Samus is the head coach for the bowl game if we end up in a bowl game. He is not particularly head coach material. He did a phenomenal job as the offensive coordinator. But just from what I've heard from some of the players, some of the parents, they don't believe he would be the best choice. I think if they have an opportunity to keep the players and keep some of the coaches on staff, I would keep him if that would mean keeping continuity because we do have some good transfers coming back. We don't want the mass exodus entering the portal. But again, I mean, it depends on what happens Saturday, and it's going to depend on what happens with the bowl game. And I think he would be a good candidate. But yeah, if I 100% agree with you, I would go with Kevin Cahill. I want the young guy. I want the guy who's paid his dues. He's worked his way up. He's been in the Ivy League. He knows the Northeast. He came into a tough Lehigh situation. He's turned them back around, and he is going to be a hot commodity. And I got to play Pop Warner football for him, so I selfishly would love to see him. And he's a Springfield guy too.
Yeah, he is. I forgot about that. The other name that I would say, but I don't know if he would jump ship already, is I think that Coach Kurt Fitzpatrick over at Colgate, another guy, won a national championship at Cortland, East Coast guys. They won 5 games this year at Colgate, which is a much better year than a 1-10
last year.
Last year. But he's another one. He's another upcoming star, and those guys have East Coast ties. It just depends on which way these guys want to go. Do you want a guy with a lot of experience? Are you going to get a coach from like the MAC, middle of the MAC team to come over and coach at UConn? So I don't know, but those would be two guys potentially I think would be really good fits.
Yeah, and I think that we should absolutely go with the younger guy. I think that taking another retread, an older guy, is not going to work out if we want to build a long-term program. We want excitement. We need somebody who is going to get fans pumped up to come to games, and so we can get over 30,000 people to come to a home game. We can get better broadcast rights. We can make some money, and we can get donors to open their wallets. And that's not going to happen unless you get one of those top coaches. So it's not going to be a long search, because the time frame right now is so fast with everything. It was fast how guys got fired. It's going to be fast how guys get hired. So I think by the time, I think before Christmas, we'll know for sure who we're going to have, and hopefully we'll be in a bowl game. But we turning to the college football playoff rankings, not a lot of change other than you called the Oregon USC game is the matchup you wanted to see.
Yeah.
And Oregon won. They moved up and leapfrogged Ole Miss. The issue that I keep reading about, number one, is the ACC, because the ACC champion is supposed to get one of the playoff spots and potentially a bye, I believe, if they're one of the highest seeded conference champions. There is nobody in really the best team in the ACC is Miami. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think Virginia is?
No, I would agree with you. I think the ACC is a little crazy, because if SMU wins this week and they're a double-digit favorite to Cal, they're in the ACC title game.
They're in the championship.
And then I do believe Miami's going to have to beat Pitt, and if Miami beats Pitt, they're going to play SMU, which I think would be a really good opportunity for Miami, because one of the things I had a problem with, and I thought the committee's done a pretty good job up until this past week, because I don't know how you have Notre Dame sitting in, I think they were at 8, and Miami, I think, was at 11 or 12.
They were at 13, and they jumped Utah. They're at 12 now.
Yes. So if you remember, Miami beat Notre Dame head to head.
Head to head. Yes.
So right now, to me, it's like, are you going to discount that game? You know, the head-to-head matchup, because the committee has said they've watched closely these games. They're going to take that into consideration, because right now, to me, Notre Dame's, I think, a 2-touchdown, maybe like 18-point favorites this week against Stanford.
Over Stanford.
They're going to beat Stanford.
Yes.
So if they win, they're in. They're not going to get dropped, so they're in. But the question I would have is, let's say Miami wins this week. They go play SMU in the ACC title game, and Miami's still on the outside looking in. You have to take that head-to-head matchup into consideration, because if you don't, then why the hell schedule those games during the year?
I don't know how you ignore it. I don't know how you ignore it.
You have to look at that. I think Miami's playing really good. Notre Dame, to me, the schedule again has been in their favor. They haven't really played. They haven't been challenged. I think they're really good. But I think, again, Miami beat them head-to-head, so they'd have to have the argument to get in. I think Miami's going to win out, and I think you're going to probably see two ACC teams in, which is going to be crazy, because you could have a 3-loss SEC team that's going to get there. And then what do you do? You know, do you take the ACC team that wins the ACC championship and leave a 2-loss or 3-loss SEC team out, who's been in a battle week in and week out, and the schedule's been absolutely crazy? So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But let me throw one more scenario at you, because I'm a Michigan guy, and my wife's the Ohio State fan. If Michigan beats Ohio State this week, and I know it's a long shot, but last year they were 24-point dogs and won.
And they won.
And now they're a 10.5, I believe, this week. If Michigan beats Ohio State and Washington beats Oregon, Michigan would play Indiana for the Big Ten championship.
Yep, 100%. And it is crazy. And even the ACC, There's 10,000 different scenarios where even Pitt could make the championship if 10 different things happen. So they want to go to a straight seeding model, I believe, where just the best teams get in, but they don't want to get rid of winning the prestige of winning a conference championship. They also talked about going to 16 teams, then it's 20 something teams. I don't know what the answer is. I think it's too much to try to go to 20 teams and making the season that much longer, especially if you do care about going to class and getting grades.
Yep.
And then, the other question, Ole Miss with what they're going to do with Lane Kiffin. I mean, basically saying we want a decision by the Egg Bowl if you're going to stay or go. I mean, they're having another 10-win season. They have a chance to make a run in the playoffs as well. And you would run him out of town like that? Or is the pressure coming from FSU and Florida, which I wouldn't be surprised if it is. But Lane Kiffin, for the job he's done there, for the time he's been there, I think he's earned the right to coach this thing out and make the decision on his own time. I don't think he should be forced into it.
He's in a really tough spot.
Yes.
In a really tough spot because I think he's really torn. Because I said last week, I think he stays at Ole Miss. I still think I'm about 80-20 that he stays. Now, I think I keep hearing every time you turn on social media, some of the guys I follow have said it's pretty much a done deal. He's going to LSU. It'll be announced after the Egg Bowl. But there's got to be something that says if he leaves, there's a really good chance that Ole Miss is still going to get in. But the question and the answer that I think I heard today was if they win the Egg Bowl, which they should, they make the playoff and Lane leaves. I think it's a matter of are they going to get a home game or are they going to have to go on the road? But if you're Lane Kiffin, can you imagine if you have to leave this team as your team? Steve, I said this the other night. I saw the pairings. I think if they're paired the way it is, I think Ole Miss can play for a national championship. I think they're really, really good. Like, how do you leave? How do you leave a team that's fighting to play for a national championship and just leave?
They would have the path to do so.
I think it'll ruin his image because I think he's cleaned up his image. But here's the curveball I'm going to throw at you. And I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. If Alabama finds a way to lose the Iron Bowl, and they're a 5.5-point dog to Auburn, or they're 5.5-point favorites. They should win the game. If they lose that game, I keep hearing Kalen DeBoer is a candidate at Penn State. What if
he's been mentioned across
job and Kiffin takes the Alabama job? That's the job I could see him going for.
That's all. Everyone's been talking about that. It's all about how the dominoes fall. Kalen has not been, let's say, loved since he's gotten to Alabama. 9-3 at Alabama is almost like going 0-12. I mean, their expectations there, they've been spoiled by Nick Saban and what he's done there. For a guy from Washington to come there and do the job that he has in 2 years, I would give the guy a pass. But I hear him for Penn State. I think he'd be absolutely a great hire at Penn State. And I think he'd do a phenomenal job. I don't know how much he loves being at Alabama with all the pressure that's on him, with the booing that he gets at his own home games. I mean, to me, that's crazy. But for him to take off at Alabama, and I certainly think it's possible. And I certainly think it's possible they could lay an egg in against Auburn in that game. That's the Iron Bowl is huge.
If he leaves, I would think that somewhere they got to negotiate for him to finish out the season at Ole Miss.
Precedent has already been set with freaking Brian Kelly leaving Notre Dame, and they go to the national championship game that year with him, and that was crazy to me. That he takes off in the middle of the night and goes to LSU and develops the Southern accent. But that's that's the reason everyone's been talking about just the way that college football has been scheduled, um, the way that they have the early signing period in December. They moved the transfer portal back to January, thinking that it was going to help. And it has definitely hurt because teams have made decisions faster, thinking we got to get a new coach faster. We got to get on the recruiting trail faster. We got to get our commitments. We got to keep the commitments we have. So it kind of backfired on them, and it's not going anywhere. It's only going to get worse. And especially if they go to the 16 team model next. I mean, they tabled it, but they could go to 16 teams. They could go to more. And like you said, the SEC, if you go 9-3 in the SEC, that's murderer's row. I mean, there's no easy game in the SEC. And Texas A&M, I think, is going to obviously win the SEC championship. I've been so impressed watching them play. And, you know, the fact that Jimbo Fisher couldn't get it done there just shocks me, that they have done as well as they have. And then Texas Tech from the Big 12, Texas Tech, it just shows. I mean, it's all about the money right now. It's all
somebody's going to get beat this week. Somebody's going to get
upset
this week.
There's going to be something that screws everything up.
You know, Texas A&M going to Austin to play Texas, Arch Manning. You never know what you're going to get from him. They looked pretty good last week in a win against Arkansas, but it's Arkansas. You know, again, Michigan's a 9.5, 10.5 point dog at home. They've had Ohio State's number over the last 4 years. They're looking for 5 in a row. You got Auburn, Alabama, which Auburn hasn't been able to stop anybody on the back end. Alabama likes to throw the ball. Somebody's going to go down.
Georgia Tech.
Exactly. And Pittsburgh beats Georgia Tech, and now Georgia Tech, a 2-touchdown dog at home to Georgia. I wouldn't be surprised if they knock Georgia off. So, like, something crazy is going to happen. I could see it. I'm not sure where it's at yet, but it's going to happen.
The funny part is Georgia Tech is being played in Atlanta because Georgia Tech gave up playing at home for $10 million. And the reason they did that is the same reason everyone else in college football or in college athletics is scrambling, because of the finances behind it. Mm-hmm. You know, this year it's $20 million. Next year it's going to be $22 million that you can pay student athletes. And the majority of that money goes to college football. Teams are spending $12 to $15 million just on college football alone. So they gave up $10 million for that, and they're proud to do it because they said it's allowed them to bring in better players. It's allowed them to get to where they are. And unfortunately, that loss kind of screwed them over. But I mean, they're going to end up 10-2 as well. And then you're going to have a team like Tulane from the group of 5. They'll be the only group of 5 school that gets in. And then, you know, I'd hate to see BYU or Utah, one of those schools from the Mountain West, get left out in the cold. Vanderbilt was on a run. Mm-hmm. They're going to be left out. I would love to see Michigan find a way in. That would be great. Yeah. That would be absolutely great. And you know, did they play Indiana this year?
Michigan did not play Indiana.
Yeah, they didn't play Indiana.
Year. They played at Oklahoma. For the first game of the year at Oklahoma, which they lost, and then USC beat them down at USC. So they got 2 losses. But if where Michigan is right now, I think Michigan was 17th or 18th, somewhere in that range. If they beat Ohio State, they're going to have a win against the number 1 team in the country. They would be in the Big Ten title game. So I don't know how you would keep them out. So a lot of interesting scenarios. But remember when it was the 4-team BCS?
I do, yes.
How crazy would it be right now to think it'd be what? Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Georgia would be the 4-team. and we'd
And
be
yeah,
talking about 5 and 6 who didn't get in. I think they're going to go to 16 teams. I do. I think they're
I
going to
think
see
they
it.
have to, and it happened because there were 3 SEC teams in it one year, and you were seeing especially the same teams over and over and over again, and they tried to go to this model, the 12-team model, which I think was great, but I think that it would be more fun, but all they look at is the revenue, and a 16-team model for revenue wise would be huge. And I can't remember what year the playoff rights change over, but it's coming soon. So they want to have a new model in place so they can make more money. And I know they have a new commissioner now because the Baylor AD stepped down. So if you are predicting this weekend the main rivalry games that we talked about, who do you like for Ohio State, Michigan, Georgia, Georgia Tech? Who do you like in those games? Miami, SMU. Who do you think's going to make the ACC title game?
I think Miami's going to win this week. I think you're going to see Miami and SMU. I do think A&M's going to go into Austin and beat Texas. I like Georgia. I think Georgia right now is peaking at the right time. I know people are going to say, well, how can you say they're peaking at the right time? I think they're playing really good on both sides of the ball. Early in the season, I didn't think it was a typical Kirby Smart defense, how we normally have seen a Kirby Smart's defense play. But I think they're playing really well right now. I think they'll go into Georgia Tech, and I think they beat Georgia Tech. I'm a Michigan homer. I'm hoping it happens.
I am too.
Ohio State's the better team, but sometimes the better team doesn't win in this game. No. And the fact that they're calling for snow, if they can get it to the fourth quarter and it's close, Ryan Day's going to panic and shit the bed again.
That's what he does.
In his head, right? I think it's in his head.
What he does.
He's got a Michigan problem.
He does.
So I'm hoping that
always
happens,
has.
but I'm not sure it does happen. I like Miami over Pittsburgh. I like Oregon over Washington. I think the one game, Steve, nobody's talking much about is I think the Vandy-Tennessee game. Vandy's going into Tennessee. Tennessee's got 3 losses at home. Does Vandy get it done for the first time, at that stadium? I think that's going to be a really good game.
Have a 10-win season. That would be huge for them. And what do you think about Notre Dame? I mean, Notre Dame, regardless, they're going to be in the playoffs. And it's going to be Miami winning the ACC, most likely.
I think Miami's going to have to have somebody lose at the top. I don't know, Oregon going into Washington. Can Washington beat Oregon? Yeah, will it happen? I don't know. I don't see it.
Right.
If Ohio State, a one-loss Ohio State, how far do you drop the Buckeyes? I don't think you're going to drop Ohio State that much. Yeah. Unless if Ole Miss loses the Egg Bowl, there's a good chance. I think they drop Ole Miss out, and then I think it helps Miami. But again, I go back to if Miami and Notre Dame played each other, how can you keep Miami out?
Yeah, and what I hate is it all depends. Christy, he found me again. It's a guy that watches my podcast. Yeah, he doesn't want Joe Moorhead. He's a reach right now. No, I agree with you. And as we've seen, college football this season has been completely unpredictable, and it's not going to go as planned. So there's going to be many things to deal with. I think we may see 1, we may see 2 upsets, and then anything can happen during the championship games. So we'll see what happens. But again, great job, great show, great analysis. I'm excited for tomorrow. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving, you and your family. And I was at the New Hartford game. It was horrible watching them lose, but what a great effort. And I was so impressed with Johnny Vitullo and Peyton Way. I just want to give them a shout out. They're tremendous talents, And I think Johnny Vitullo, especially, he'll have an opportunity to move up. He is something else. That guy. I hadn't seen him play in person since last year, but my God,
Peyton's going to Colgate.
Yes, which will be great there.
I think I heard Johnny's going to Cortland.
Yeah,
I believe. But Jim Kramer's a friend of mine who's done a fantastic job there.
Completely changed the culture.
Horrible way to lose the game.
Yeah,
on a field
I was shocked. I was shocked, and I watched the play where they ran the quarterback draw like 10 times and got the yardage they needed. I was just surprised at how they ran it and how they executed it. And it was for a quarterback who can't throw either. They just ran the ball all game. But happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And we will definitely have a lot to talk about next week after everything sorts itself out. For Rocky Carigliano, the Rock Pile, Steve Cully, the best podcast host in the universe. Remember, happy Thanksgiving. And when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.